You know that one neighbor everyone hates? The one who always has a problem with you, but somehow manages to be the neighborhood's biggest problem himself? Yeah, that's Greg. Greg wasn't just annoying, he was a professional menace. He parked in front of driveways, blasted his awful music at 3 a.m., and had a dog that apparently thought my lawn was its personal restroom. But the real kicker, Greg was a package thief. At first I thought I was imagining things. My Amazon orders would say delivered, but there was no package in sight. Maybe it was misplaced. Maybe the delivery guy was lying. Then I caught Greg on my doorbell camera, waltzing up to my porch like he owned the place and snatching my package. It started small, a missing package here and there, a delay that didn't make sense. At first I thought maybe it was the delivery drivers messing up. Maybe the wind blew it into the bushes. Maybe, just maybe, someone was mistakenly grabbing my packages, thinking they were theirs. Then, one day, my neighbor Sarah knocked on my door. She was holding her phone, face twisted in frustration. "Hey, have you had any missing deliveries lately?" she asked. I nodded. "Yeah, a few." "Why?" She turned the phone toward me, showing a video. It was doorbell camera footage of Greg casually strolling up to her porch, bending down and swiping a package. He didn't even bother checking if anyone was watching, just picked it up like he owned the place and walked off. I felt my blood boil. "That's him?" She nodded. "Yep," and I asked around. Apparently, half the neighborhood has had missing packages in the last month, but no proof until now. That was the moment I knew. I wasn't dealing with just an annoying neighbor. I was dealing with a serial thief. Greg was playing the long game, stealing small items here and there, making sure no one had solid proof. But now, we had him, and if there's one thing you need to know about me, I don't take kindly to thieves. I wasn't just going to catch Greg in the act, I was going to make him suffer. And so, the plan was born, the most ridiculous, petty, and humiliating revenge he would never forget. Catching Greg in the act wasn't enough. No, I wanted justice, but not just any justice. I wanted something that would be brutal, hilarious, and unforgettable. The usual options ran through my head. Should I call the cops? Maybe, but let's be real. By the time they got involved, Greg would have already swiped a dozen more packages. Should I confront him? Pointless. Greg was the kind of guy who'd just lie through his teeth, pretend he had no idea what I was talking about, and then probably steal more out of spite. No, I needed something smarter, something foolproof. And then, like a gift from the internet gods, inspiration struck. I remembered watching a video about glitter bombs. Some genius engineer had rigged up a package that, once opened, exploded a fine mist of glitter everywhere. And not just any glitter, the ultra-fine, impossible-to-remove kind that sticks to skin, hair, and clothes for weeks. But that wasn't enough. Greg deserved more. So I did some digging and found the ultimate revenge combo, a glitter bomb, to ensure Greg would be sparkling like a disco ball for days. Skunk spray, because nothing says instant regret like the overwhelming stench of pure suffering. A decoy, tracking number, so if Greg tried to check where the package came from, it would show up as a normal delivery. This was no ordinary prank. This was science-backed, diabolical pettiness at its finest. I spent the next few days assembling my masterpiece. I ordered the materials online, making sure they were completely legal, because the last thing I needed was to get arrested over a revenge prank. The glitter bomb was simple to set up, a small spring-loaded mechanism that would explode the moment the package was opened. The skunk spray, preloaded inside a hidden compartment, designed to activate after the glitter explosion. I tested everything in my garage to make sure it worked. Trust me, it did. And then carefully packaged it up in a perfect-looking Amazon box. Now, all I had to do was wait. Greg had no idea what was coming, and I couldn't wait to watch him suffer. Now that I had my masterpiece of petty revenge ready, it was time for the most crucial step, getting Greg to take the bait. I had studied his behavior long enough to know his habits. Greg wasn't just a thief, he was a lazy thief. He only stole packages that were left out for a while, never snatching them immediately after delivery. He liked to wait, make sure no one was watching, then casually walk up like he had every right to take it. Classic amateur move. So, I had to make my fake package look as tempting as possible. I grabbed an old Amazon box, the perfect size, not too big or too small. Then, I printed out a fake shipping label, complete with a barcode and tracking number. The package had my name on it, a fragile sticker on the side, and just enough weight to feel like it contained something valuable. I even scuffed the box a little, just enough to make it look realistically handled by delivery drivers. Finally, I set it on my porch, right in Greg's line of sight. Now, all I had to do was wait. The waiting game, the hardest part. Not looking suspicious. I couldn't sit by the window all day staring at Greg's house. No, I had to act natural. So, I went about my normal routine, watering the plants, walking the dog, and casually stepping outside, just long enough for Greg to see that I wasn't watching. Sure enough, within 2 hours, I saw him. Greg appeared at the edge of my yard, doing what I could only describe as the world's worst attempt at looking casual. He pretended to scroll through his phone, glancing at my porch every few seconds. He looked around, making sure no one was watching. Then, like clockwork, he made his move. Greg strutted up my driveway, bent down, and scooped up the box like it was his birthright. He tucked it under his arm and strolled back to his house, completely oblivious to the fact that he had just signed himself up for the worst mistake of his life. I bit my lip, holding back laughter, because what Greg didn't know was that his nightmare was about to begin. Greg took the bait perfectly. I watched from my window, barely able to contain my excitement. He had the fake package tucked under his arm, strolling back to his house like he had just hit the jackpot. Oh, buddy, he had no idea what was coming. Greg was cocky. He didn't even check to see if anyone was watching. That was the best part about his thieving habit. He thought he was untouchable. He had stolen so many packages without consequences that he didn't even bother hiding it anymore. The moment he stepped into his house and closed the door, I sprinted to my laptop. My second hidden camera, placed right across from his front porch, was about to deliver pure gold. I clicked the live feed. There he was, standing in his living room, eagerly tearing into the box like a kid on Christmas morning. He yanked the flaps open. Boom. The glitter bomb detonated perfectly. A massive, shimmering mushroom cloud of ultra-fine glitter exploded in his face, covering everything: his shirt, his hands, his hair. Greg let out a strangled yell, stumbling backward, frantically swiping at his face. But it was too late. The tiny specks were everywhere. No amount of wiping, shaking, or panicked flailing was going to save him. And then, the skunk spray. A split second after the glitter explosion, a hidden vial of concentrated skunk essence burst open, releasing a stench so foul, so stomach-churning, it made rotten garbage smell like a luxury candle. Greg gagged. He staggered back, tripped over his own feet, and crashed into his coffee table. "Oh my God, what the hell? What is this?" he shrieked, voice cracking from pure horror. The spray clung to his clothes, soaking into his hoodie and jeans. The more he touched it, the worse it spread. His living room now smelled like 1,000 skunks had declared war inside his house. Greg bolted toward the bathroom, wheezing, probably thinking he could wash it off. Spoiler alert, he couldn't. From my window, I was crying with laughter. The legend of Glitter Skunk. Greg had just been born. Greg had officially entered his personal nightmare. I watched from my window as he burst out of his front door, coughing and gagging, his once black hoodie now shimmering like a disco ball. The glitter had infiltrated every part of him, his hair, his beard, even inside his ears. But the real suffering came from the skunk spray. Greg was dry heaving, frantically yanking at his clothes as if that would somehow stop the stink from sinking deeper into the fabric. Spoiler alert, it wouldn't. "What the hell?" he screeched, his voice barely functioning through the absolute onslaught of regret. He tore off his hoodie, only to realize the smell had already latched onto his skin. The scent of chemical warfare-grade skunk musk was now his new cologne. Greg made the worst mistake possible. He touched his face. Immediately, he recoiled like he'd been electrocuted, his eyes going wide in horror. The skunk spray had transferred to his fingers, and now his face was part of the crime scene. He gagged again. Then he sprinted toward his garden hose. I bit my lip, watching the show unfold. "Oh, Greg, you absolute fool." The failed cleanup attempt. Greg fumbled with the hose, twisting the nozzle with shaking hands. Desperate to wash away his suffering, he turned it on full blast and drenched himself. Bad move. Water does nothing to skunk spray. In fact, it can make it worse. Greg scrubbed his arms, his neck, his face, but the smell only spread further. It was in his hair. His beard was doomed. Then I heard it. A high-pitched scream from across the street. It was old Mrs. Jenkins, the sweetest old lady on the block, out for her morning walk. She had just caught a whiff of Greg's misery. "Oh, dear heavens," she gasped, clutching her nose. "What is that foul stench?" Greg turned to her, dripping wet, covered in glitter, reeking of pure hell. Mrs. Jenkins backed away like he was a rabid animal, and that's when it hit him. His suffering was now public knowledge. His reputation shattered, his clothes ruined, and his porch now a permanent glitter crime scene. Greg had officially lost the battle and the war. He stood there, dripping wet, covered in microscopic glitter, and absolutely marinating in skunk spray. Every attempt to fix things had only made it worse. And then the neighborhood started noticing. First, it was Mrs. Jenkins who, after gasping in horror at the ungodly stench, had turned and power walked away like she was fleeing a crime scene. Then came Mr. Thompson from 2 houses down, stepping onto his porch, wrinkling his nose and muttering, "Good Lord, did something die?" Greg froze. This was no longer his problem. This was a neighborhood event. I watched from my window as Greg desperately tried to make a run for it, sprinting toward his front door to escape the humiliation. But in his panic, he forgot about the glitter. His wet sneakers slipped on the sparkly coating covering his porch. He flailed, arms pinwheeling, a look of sheer panic flashing across his face. And then he went down, hard, right into the mess of glitter and skunk residue, rubbing even more of it into his clothes, his arms, his face. The second he hit the ground, a fresh wave of stink was unleashed into the air. Mr. Thompson gagged. "Oh, sweet Jesus, what is that?" Greg scrambled to his feet, his once black sweatpants now a glittery nightmare, and bolted inside his house like his life depended on it. Too late. The scent of defeat. Greg's front door slammed shut. For a brief moment the street was silent. Then Mr. Thompson turned, muttering, "Damn, that boy is gonna need a priest." I was crying from laughter. Greg thought his suffering was over, but oh, it was only beginning. The best part about skunk spray, it lingers for hours, sometimes days, and his entire house was now contaminated. I imagined him inside, realizing his entire living room smelled like a biohazard zone. No amount of Febreze was going to save him. He could shower, he could burn his clothes, but that smell, it was part of him now. Greg had stolen his last package. Just when Greg thought his suffering couldn't get any worse, it did, because at that exact moment, as he was inside, marinating in his own failure, his date arrived. Yup, his hot date. The one he had been bragging about for a week. A sleek, black car pulled up in front of Greg's house, and out stepped a well-dressed woman, her heels clicking against the pavement. She looked polished, confident, and completely unprepared for the horror that awaited her. From my window I watched, holding back laughter. She walked up Greg's driveway, adjusting her dress, clearly expecting to be greeted by a man who had his life together. Instead, the second she got within 10 feet of his door, she froze, her nose wrinkled, her eyes squinted. Something was wrong. I saw her take a cautious sniff, then immediately jerk her head back like she'd been slapped. The skunk stench had reached her. Greg must have heard her pull up, because the door suddenly flew open, and there he was, the broken man. His clothes were soaked and stained. His hair glistened with stubborn flecks of glitter. And the smell, oh, the smell. His date took a full step back. "What the hell is that smell?" she blurted out, her hand flying to her nose. Greg stood there, looking like he had just crawled out of a garbage dump during a glitter explosion. His eyes darted around, as if searching for a miracle. I had an accident," he stammered. She blinked. "An accident?" Greg nodded frantically. "It's a kind of a funny story." She took another step back, then another. Then she turned on her heel and power walked straight back to her car. Greg rushed after her. "Wait, it's not what it looks like." She slammed the car door, rolled down the window just enough to glare at him, and said the words that would haunt him forever. "Yeah, no, we're done." And then she drove off. Greg stood in the middle of his driveway, watching his last shred of dignity disappear down the street. It was over. He had officially lost everything, and I had never felt so satisfied. Greg's legendary downfall should have ended there, but thanks to modern technology and a little community spirit, his humiliation was only just beginning. You see, while Greg was busy rolling around in glitter and skunk misery, I was busy doing something much more productive, editing the footage. Between my doorbell camera and the second hidden camera across the street, I had captured every glorious second of Greg's crime, karma, and catastrophic meltdown. The casual package theft, the instant glitter explosion, the horror on his face as the skunk spray kicked in, the slip and slide disaster on his own porch, and of course the final blow, his hot date's disgusted rejection. It was pure gold, so I did what any responsible citizen would do. I posted it in the neighborhood Facebook group. Caption: "To whoever's been stealing packages, hope you enjoyed your special delivery." Within minutes, the comment section exploded. "OMG, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen. Glitter Boy got what he deserved. Karma smells like a skunk and shines like a disco ball." Wait, was that his date? Walking away, I'm screaming. Even people who never interacted in the group started chiming in. Then came the memes. Someone zoomed in on Greg's horrified face from the exact moment the skunk spray hit. They turned it into a reaction meme. Someone else added a caption to the clip of him slipping on the glitter. "Thief down, thief down." Greg had officially become the neighborhood clown, and the best part, he knew it. The next morning, I saw him outside with a bucket of water and a scrub brush, desperately trying to get the glitter off his porch. But no amount of scrubbing could erase his reputation. The entire block now knew exactly who he was. Greg was done stealing packages, and as I watched him scrub his porch, defeated and covered in failure, I smiled, because I knew this video was never going away. Greg had officially been destroyed. His package-stealing days were over. His social life was in ruins, and his house still smelled like the inside of a skunk's armpit. For the next few days, he kept a low profile. No loud music, no obnoxious late-night parties, no passive-aggressive glares from his porch. Greg had been humbled. I could tell he was trying to lay low and let the embarrassment blow over. But there was just one little problem. The internet never forgets. The neighborhood Facebook post, it went viral. Not just locally, it spread. People shared it on Reddit, Twitter, even Instagram. One morning, I checked my phone and saw a clip of Greg's glitter explosion on a meme page with 500,000 followers. Caption: "Imagine stealing a package and opening it just to get slapped in the face by karma." The comments were brutal. This man thought he was getting free AirPods and instead got a lifetime supply of shame. Bro went from thief to disco skunk in 0.5 seconds. Do y'all think he still smells? I bet he still smells. Even people who didn't know Greg were laughing at his misfortune, and that's when I knew he was never living this down. The aftermath. A week later, I saw Greg outside, throwing out his front doormat. I guess no matter how hard he scrubbed, the skunk smell had settled in permanently. A few days after that, a for rent sign appeared in his front yard. That's right, Greg was moving out. Maybe it was the glitter still stuck in his floorboards. Maybe it was the way neighbors laughed every time they saw him. Maybe it was the fact that no one could look at him without remembering that viral video. Whatever it was, he was gone within a month. And the best part, my packages never went missing again. So, did Greg learn his lesson? Maybe, maybe not. But one thing is for sure, he will never open a stolen package again without breaking into a cold sweat. And as for me, I sleep very well at night.